well.
Yes, I could watch both. I didn't even think about that.
Jamie,
Yes.
someone said that there wasn't a link on the website. Maybe they just need to refresh.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it here. Thank you. So. Okay, good evening. 5:30 here, and we'll get started. In terms of our technology and connection, are we doing okay? The PowerPoint is up both through, well, in terms of the Zoom for our panel, and then the YouTube channel for our audience. We're ready to
Yep.
go.
Everything's good.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
You're good.
Okay, Brian O'Hara, Superintendent of our amazing Girard City Schools here. I want to welcome you to our Zoom Town Hall meeting this evening on Wednesday, September 23rd. This is probably, I think, the third Town Hall meeting that we've had over the last couple of weeks. We find them successful in terms of getting on the same page and sharing any progress that we are making, which we have been making weekly, and allowing our families and students to provide us with questions and comments to guide us into even enhancing our improvements more in the future. This evening, a special thanks to Mr. Jamie Williams, our Girard High School multimedia teacher, who helps us set up the connection here. And although our entire administrative team has worked behind this presentation, tonight we have with us Dr. Debbie Gratz, our prospect K-3 principal, Mrs. Julianne Ware, our Girard Intermediate School 4-6 principal, Mrs. Jen Santangelo, junior high 7-8 principal, Mr. John Cardero, I think will be joining us, assistant principal GHS grades 9 through 12. And presently we have Mr. Sam Caputo, our GHS high school principal. So that being said, let's review a little bit in terms of if it's your first experience with the YouTube directory here. Questions can be asked by simply the chat window on the YouTube interface there. So as I share the agenda with you, I'll try to ask you if you could keep your questions aligned to the topic that we are currently under. If you can do that, it would help us address those questions probably more fluently and efficiently. So that being said, let's look at the agenda for this evening. Again, we should have both of our audiences here tonight in terms of our distance learning and our e-learning families. We'll talk a little bit about expectations for student attendance procedures. As you can imagine, under remote learning, it's a little bit different, and we're kind of working our way through what is expected from us in terms of our accountability to the state in certain Ohio revised code. We'll look a little bit at tech request and repair process and the form that's been developed for any repairs that need to be made for the technology aspect. In terms of curriculum, we'll focus on our time on task expectations. However, if you have any other curriculum comments or questions during that time, please post them. Our parent forms, that they're usually an annual, paper pencil type of experience when we are face-to-face. However, adjustments have been made that we get the correct permission, consent, and passive consent forms completed. Reflection on our teacher and parent conferences coming up, and interim delivery and expectations, some administrative updates, and then a reminder about our student meals. So that being said, we'll move on to our student attendance here, and Mrs. Santangelo is going to guide us through this information.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to join all of you tonight. I just want to highlight two pieces for attendance with all of our families this evening. I'd like to start by saying attendance used to be easy. Simply a student would show up and we would mark them present. And that, of course, has changed within this model. And because K-12, we have students in both the e-learning and distance learning models, there are now a long list of ways your student will receive attendance for any given school day. And what you see in our presentation are the varieties of ways in which a student will receive or could receive attendance with our school district. Really a very common one that's being utilized is the daily check-in. Many of you parents, I'm sure, have seen this within the Google Classroom platforms and other platforms as well that we're using. It's usually in a simple Google form, and it's a quick question. Just a reminder that for student attendance, we want to make sure that especially your older children who have multiple teachers and multiple courses, that they are doing that daily check-in for all of those. If a daily check-in is not there, but an assignment is there, and they work on an assignment on any given day, that would also fulfill their attendance requirement, as well as logging into their Google Classroom, commenting on a video or a post in the stream would give them attendance for a day. Any login to any of our support programs that we offer, and there's a long list of those, but some of them include obviously our Edgenuity platform, EdSite, Common Lit, News ELA, Schoology, Edpuzzle, Peg Writing, Study Island, and on and on. Those programs are used to support our curriculum, and all of that would help your child gain attendance on, again, any given day. Participation in a Zoom session, although not required, would also be an attendance mark for them. Any submission of an ongoing assignment. So for example, if you have a big English essay and it takes several days, well, submission of that would gain you attendance for those days that you were working on that said assignment. Any communication with your teacher for extra help or for technology support or issues. I can't emphasize enough that you will not be docked for your attendance in any way. If your device is not working, if there are power outages, internet outages, etc., that will all be excused and able to be made up for your student. Also working in groups or pairs or any of those collaborative ways that we're getting creative to work together online. And finally, those new platforms that have been introduced at the elementary level, any login to your Ascend Math, your Mind Play programming will also gain attendance for your student. And finally, if you notice, there are some asterisks at the bottom of that slide. We recognize, and I know we've talked about this in our previous town halls, that our family schedules really vary and that you guys have all kinds of commitments and conflicts and things that can come up. So there isn't a given time throughout the day where it's required for a student to log in or on, but rather fit that and tailor that to the needs of your family. So attendance is retroactive. If it's not done on a certain day or time and a student goes back in and completes work, attendance will be adjusted to reflect that. So I can't emphasize enough that we want to work with our families regarding student attendance and making it work for you. And I just need the next slide. Okay, so how can you help us? This is when you should contact the building. And again, we would ask that you would call us when you normally would call us. So if you have something going on with your student, if they're ill, if there unfortunately would be a death in the family or a family emergency, again, if you have technology outages or issues, a planned vacation, quarantine, court, etc., all of those reasons to call in the past would apply in these circumstances. We would then take that information and share it with your students' teachers so we can communicate from the main office out to our teachers and try to keep the communication flowing between you, the parent, the student, the teacher, and the office. Anytime you run into logging on becoming an issue for your child, I would say a phone call to your student's principal or building would be appropriate. So please don't hesitate to call us. We're then able to shoot out emails to 4, 5, 6 teachers on behalf of your student. So please, again, once you report to the building, we will make sure we get that information out to your child's appropriate teachers and so on, and also support whatever needs might need to be met if work needs to be made up, deadlines extended, or support given. So just don't hesitate to call us.
Thank you, Mrs. Santangelo, on summarizing the guidance there for our current attendance policies. And, you know, this is kind of a work in progress depending on whatever shift we may take in terms of our learning models in the future. At this time, I don't have the YouTube chat up. Are there any questions that we should be addressing? I don't see any in the spreadsheet.
There are no questions on YouTube.
Okay. All right. So again, thank you, Mrs. Santangelo. And let's move on to the tech request repair. And I need to extend thank you to Mr. John Bello, who is our kind of our tech supervisor, and his supporting group in terms of getting probably close to 950 computers ready and into the hands of our students over the last 4 to 5 weeks. Trying there to lessen what we call the digital divide within our community. In terms of access to technology, and 100 plus hotspots and internet spots that are in the homes now, so that we have more equity in terms of receiving curriculum and support. So that being said, now this PowerPoint here will be posted on the website after the presentation, and these links will be on our homepage. However, in terms of requesting a repair on the computer that was supplied by our school district, you need to make sure you fill out this form before you would drop it off. And currently our drop-off location for all computers is at Prospect Elementary School. And then only after this form is completed would we be able to have another loaner ready for you so that we can keep the technology fluent in terms of receiving the curriculum and communication with our district and teachers, et cetera. So this would be available. I just need to emphasize again, please make sure that it is completed prior to any pickup, and then you'll be notified after you complete the form as to when to drop off the computer that needs repaired and then your new loaner. So, okay. Any questions on technology requests or repair there? Anything in the queue? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on then to our curriculum focus today with the time on task expectations. Mrs. Ware?
Okay, hi everyone. So we just have a few little notes about what it looks like for time on task for our students in a digital world. So some of the big things that we've had conversations about is the fact that when we're looking at face-to-face class time, it's not equivalent to doing our online learning. So our e-learners or our distance learners, computer time and doing your online instruction the time is not necessarily equivalent. A lot of the conversations comes in sparks from us from research. So looking at the research and really making sure that we're following patterns from other states and we're following the research of what is best for our students in time on task for their screen time and looking at those instructional measures. So when we're looking at the K-6 building, you can see there is a gradual increase of time across the board. And so really being focused on relatively, this is the amount of time that our students would be working at each grade level. So being able to use this as a guide and seeing kind of where your student is and how much time they're spending each day on these activities. And some of the activities are weekly. So social emotional learning is really looking at a weekly 15 to 30 minutes a week. And then when we have our specialists and we have our specials happening, so in class, our students would come to a certain specialist every single day and those rotate. So essentially looking at the same thing when they're doing the distance learning is that is going to be on a rotated measure. And so they're going to be looking at those different Google Classrooms one a day and kind of switching those around each week.
For our distance learners, correct, in terms of the specials?
Correct. That is specifically for our distance learners.
And just to emphasize, these minutes here are daily across the board.
Correct. These are daily. Okay, so when you're looking at 712, obviously we're operating under that same research that the time is not necessarily equivalent. However, when we start looking at the high school and looking at what that looks like for a high school is really making sure that we're following and we're in conjunction with the Carnegie minutes to be able to ensure that we have the credits going to our high school students following the state. So those are slightly different. So if you look at that, but really being able to relatively go with what it is that's looking at the minutes per subject per class. Mr. Caputo, do you have anything else you want to add with the high school?
You're muted, Mr. Computer.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. The only thing I would add is the 80 minutes, though it looks like a lot, just a friendly reminder that a lot of our classes have been blocked. We did that to lessen the number of teachers that had to interact with our students in the chance that we would be remote. And also, when we come back to the building to decrease the flow from classroom to classroom and the frequency of class changes and that sort of thing. So that being said, although there's 80 minutes committed to ELA and 80 minutes committed to math and 80 minutes committed to science and social studies, it's very likely that a high school student only has, one or two of those classes and at the most 3, but certainly not 4 core classes just in this semester. I can speak to, other than some of our sophomores, because there's so many tested subjects, there are state tests in their biology class and in their English class and in American History, American Government, they all take as sophomores. Other than that, they may have 3 core classes right now, but for the most part, the overwhelming number of our high school students only have 2 core classes during this semester.
Thanks, Mr. Caputo. Any other administrator want to comment in terms of the building or their minutes? Okay. Any questions from the audience that have been posted?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now moving on to our parent forums, and we'll go back to Mrs. Santangelo.
Hi again, everybody. There are two items we'd like to highlight under parent forums or parent permissions this evening. One is a very standard set of permissions. We get these every year from our families. However, being in a distance learning model has certainly made it difficult to send papers home and have them signed and returned. So one of these forms to talk about tonight is our parent consent form. And within this is our acceptable use policy, permission to display photographs, for example, like for our yearbook, also student artwork and other things that our students produce. Our e-learning handbook, which is new this year, and also to make everyone aware about our educational opportunity under Title IX. That's going to be a live form where you can go in for your student and simply fill out their name, grade level, and give the appropriate permissions as you see those documents. That form is now live at this time and will be posted on our school website so that you can go in. You would need to complete this if you have more than one student within the school district. It is done on an individual student basis. The second permission is really a unique one for this school year, and that is our Zoom permissions for the year. That is going to come home to you all by mail. And there's a reason that we are doing this. We are doing what is called a passive consent, meaning if we don't hear back from you, if you don't detach the bottom part of the letter that they're going to show you here in a second, if you don't detach that and send it back, then we're going to operate business as usual regarding Zoom sessions and your student. If you do not want your student recorded on a Zoom session, you would return the bottom portion of the letter signed and completed back to the building by Friday, October the 2nd, I believe. We will not, of course, be recording any of our Zooms until the following week. You might be wondering what would be the purpose for recording Zooms. And let me give you a perfect example. This evening, our Zoom is being recorded, and then this whole Zoom would be placed on our school website so that people who are not able to log in on a specific Zoom time could go back and rewatch components of a Zoom session. So review sessions with teachers or reading sessions at the elementary level, it might be nice to have that flexibility for your child to go back in and watch a Zoom that has already taken place. So with your permission for those students to be present in those Zoom sessions, they will then be recorded. It does state in the letter that if you did not want that, the student's picture would be removed. So those are the two areas of permission that we're looking for from you all in the next week or so.
Thank you, Mrs. Santangelo. I'll click on the form here in terms of what will be online here. This will be posted on our the homepage of our website here in the very near future after our presentation or early tomorrow morning. So you can simply go to the website and complete your form. Okay. I anticipate that we can also probably post the passive consent form too for the Zoom meetings, although they'll be mailed out. They can also be available on our website if you may need to print that. And either mail it back to us or we have our drop-off boxes at each of our locations, but that needs to be completed by October 2nd. And then I just want to emphasize it does not mean that all meetings that are Zoom will be recorded, but in the event that a meeting could be recorded for review, etc., that we're all on the same page in terms of who has permission to be in the Zoom and who does not. Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to our interim reports of parent-teacher conferences. Dr. Gratz.
Good
Good evening, Girard families. As you see on the slide, our conferences will be virtual Zoom parent-teacher conferences only, and they will be held on October 8th. As you see as a time, Prospect Elementary will be 2:30 to 8:30, Girard Intermediate 1:40 to 7:40, Girard Junior High 1:20 to 7:20, and Girard Senior High 1:20 to 7:20. As you can recall, we have the distance learning and the e-learning families. Distance learning, there's been a lot more communication with you during this format. And with the e-learning families, I know you have daily reports of progress, that you're able to see your child's progress, your student's progress. So if you feel that you do not need to schedule a conference because you're comfortable with what you've been receiving daily, then that's appropriate also. But if you feel you do need to schedule a conference, then you'll be scheduling it during the times that are listed on the slide in front of you. Each building will be in the next few days or next few weeks, to say, reaching out to you of how you can schedule your conference. So please, if this is something that you feel you would like to have a conference with your teacher, please do so. And have a nice evening.
Okay. And then in terms of our interims, of course, I didn't know in terms of, keeping up with the progress of your child or student. As in the past, we'll send a reminder to make sure you log into your parent access, which can be accessed either through our website. Jen, were you going to walk through this, or Mrs. Santangelo, or are we okay in terms of our message here?
I can certainly add a couple of things.
Okay. Did you want me to click on the parent access link, or?
You can, sure.
Thank you.
I would just start off with this reminder. I know that the fourth grade does not yet have their parent access keys yet. They'll be getting those. If you are a new student and you need a parent access key, that's where it all begins, and you should contact your building directly to receive the parent access key. Once you have that information, you can go to our website, click on the parent access link that Mr. O'Hara has clicked, and click on the G there, and you will see that over on the right hand side, it gives you an opportunity to sign up. In this case, of course, if you have an existing account, you could sign in. And if you've forgotten passwords and so forth, it's not any different than any other of the many accounts we have. If you do a forgot password, and you can go through the steps to recover it. If you do click the sign up, you'll see that it's basic information along with your email, and then that specific student key. That will allow you to then create an account linked to the Girard City Schools Parent Access database. In addition to you as a parent, your student also has the ability to have an independent key and create their own account and monitor their own progress. The counselors at this level, grades 7 through 12, do assist students in setting up their student accounts so that they're able to monitor and track their own progress in all of their courses. There is also a way where you can link multiple students together on the same page so that you as a parent can see all of your children in one update. If you do have problems with this, please call your student's building and we will walk you through the process. We've even brought parents in person if needed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Santangelo. And again, that link is available on our homepage down here in the bottom right section of the homepage. Or again, you may click on the link when the PowerPoint is posted. So,
there was a question, Mr. O'Hara, on YouTube about the reports and some daily reports that are coming for the e-learners. So every day, the daily reports are happening inside your student's profile. So when you click on your little student's avatar in the top right-hand corner, so if you're in MindPlay, specifically I'm talking about MindPlay, if you click on the avatar, it will take you to the parent reports. Those parent reports adjust every single day. So every time your student is on there. So I know we had talked like a week ago when we did a parent town hall about being able to see that first diagnostic test, that data will still stay in there, but there are like 4 other reports. It has a usage report, progress report, a fluency report. So there are some other reports in there. So every single day you can kind of track and see exactly where your student is going and moving. And then the same thing happens in the math, on the Ascend Math, that there are daily reports. You can see how much time is being spent, how much time is being spent on certain standards, objectives, where they're working, and then how their questions that they've missed, what they need more practice on. So all of that, all of those reports are all housed within Ascend Math and in Mind Play. And if you need help on any of those reports, please obviously reach out to any of us at the buildings. We can walk you through. There's also Zoom sessions that are happening during the days to be able to help support parents and students. If they have any questions during the day, we can hold any type of Zoom office hour to be able to sit in there and kind of walk through, and we can, you can share your screen. We can go through all of those reports. So if you need help on that, just let us know.
Mrs. Ware, in terms of, I think K5 or K6, those office hours or Zoom hours are daily from, is it, you know?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So I was specifically talking K5 program.
Yeah.
The office hours are from 9 until 10 in the morning, and then from 1 until 2 in the afternoon. However, if you reach out, we're open to be able to Zoom at any point in time, but those office hours are going to be up every single day during a specific time. And then obviously for the 612 for Edgenuity, the same works. We have the usage reports. You can see exactly what it is that's been happening with the student, how they're progressing, how much time they've been spending on each area, going in and seeing all of that as well. And Coach Foster is also available to be able to do any type of Zooming, conversations, email, walking through if you're needing to be able to see any of those reports. So again, that updates and changes every single day. So those are really nice reports to be able to check back in on.
Thank you. Any other comments here in terms of the progress book, et cetera, or daily reports?
Yes, there was a question about going back in. Mr. O'Hara, could you go back into the main Girard City Schools page and take them back to the parent access?
Okay, yes.
Okay, and being able to show them exactly how to get onto that parent access. Yep, that's exactly, they're wanting to do that again.
All right. So again, homepage, bottom right corner there, and then we get to the parent access login. Okay. I'm sorry, my PowerPoint closed down every time I, for some reason, go to the website there. I'll have to clean up my technology here. Okay, interims. Again, looking at the gains, I know in terms of our recent shift in education since the pandemic hit, and the increase in terms of communication and frequency of communication, either through reports or Zoom meetings between our administration, our staff, and then of course our staff administration with our parents and families is definitely one of the gains that has come from these challenges that we have turned into opportunities. So that being said, let's move along with some administrative updates, and they're going back to you, Mrs. Santangelo.
Yes, it is. Okay, so a few things have come across our desks as principals through either our teachers letting us know or going in ourselves, just some little pointers, because this is all very different for us. We would like to remind our students and you as their parents that our acceptable use policies still apply even in a distance learning setting. One of the things that we've struggled a little bit with are our student profile pictures and making sure that those remain appropriate and not a distraction to others. So at this point in time, we've addressed those individual situations where students have had profile pictures that have needed to be changed. And at this point, our technology supervisor has locked the student profile pictures as they are. So at this point in time, all the student profile pictures have been deemed appropriate and then have been locked. Going forward and working with Google, we're hoping to get back to a default position. So you most likely will see that coming soon, where it's a more simpler student initial and a colored background. So we're working to transition all of those profile pictures and then keeping this as a non-issue going forward. Another point to mention is Zoom behavior. Just a reminder to our students that Zoom is an extension of the classroom. So those types of norms that are appropriate in our schoolhouse would remain the same in our Zoom sessions. And then finally, and probably the more complicated area we'd like to note, our students, we've received some phone calls that our students have not seen some of the teacher notes and some of the videos that they've been posting. And through those conversations, we started to figure out why. And what we identified as happening is our students all have a to-do button in the top left-hand corner of their main Google Classroom page. And the next slide is going to show you exactly where that is. So if your student is going to the Google Classroom hub, if you will, in the top left-hand corner, there is that to-do button. And actually the next slide, I think it's circled red to highlight. Yep. And it's a really nice feature. However, what we're finding is in that to-do button, it is strictly assignments that students have to do. Inside of teachers' individual classroom pages, you will find notes and videos and specific instructions that support that particular item on the to-do list. So while a to-do list is great, what we found is some of our students are bypassing the classroom notes and other support materials that are needed to successfully complete the assignment or the quiz or so forth. And they're calling us and saying, hey, wait a minute, why am I asked to do this sort of without any assistance or support or directions? Well, here those directions are inside of the Google Classroom. As a parent, the to-do tab is really nice because if you notice on this slide, you see the missing button in the center there, and that can actually indicate the things that your student has not yet completed, as well as that third tab, which is the done button. So between what is assigned, what is missing, and what is done, you're able to, as a parent, go to one spot in the Google Classroom Hub and check that out really quickly. And so, of course, are our students. But a reminder to go to the main teacher page for a lot of those supports, as well as messages from the teachers directly. And I think that takes care of some of the glitches we've identified so far.
Okay, thank you again. Any questions currently in the queue?
We do. We have a question about Edgenuity, so kind of backing up a little bit, but Edgenuity, when the students have to write an essay, there's some lab reports and there's some other things that the students have to do some written components for. And the system will suggest a grade, but it's automatically going to pop a 0 into the student's grade book because it has to manually, a teacher has to manually go in and look at what the computer is giving them to see the suggested grade. And then they have to either agree with it or they can change the grade. So essentially that grade won't be finalized until the teacher goes in and reviews the assignment. So that happens with any type of writing, anything that they have to type up. Now, if they did, sometimes the students will kind of try to bypass it and just type a few sentences that don't actually address what the question is. And then the instructor will go in, make the adjustments in there, and then ask the student to go back and reset the activity for the student to go in and redo it. But the student will be notified if that were to happen. So if there is a grade of a 0, it's because the instructor hasn't gone in and graded the assignment as of yet, and that will happen. Another question came about parent access for remote learners. The parent access is for our distance learners at the moment. Students will be graded, the e-learners will have grades that will go into the system closer towards the end of the 9 weeks. So you will not see any grades in there if you are doing e-learning at this point because you have all of those parent reports. And so looking at those parent reports are going to be really helpful. If you have distance learners, you can keep up with the grade book on parent access. I think that's addressing all of the questions.
Okay, thank you. A reminder again about our student meal pickups on Thursday currently from 11 to 12:30 and 4 to 5:30. Again, I want to extend kudos to Mrs. Trish Wilson, our food service supervisor, and her crew, and all their hard work. We probably averaged about 450 families come through over the last 2 weeks on these Thursdays to make sure that those children of those families are receiving, their student meals and the nutrition that is needed. So thank you for that effort. Any additional questions at this time in terms of the queue there?
No.
Okay. All right. So I want to express my thanks again to our administration and our staff and our community during this time of remote learning. We're entering into now the second day of week 3. And our goal is to improve each week. And the only way we improve is that we have communication and we're transparent. So, and we do that on a daily basis. We meet administratively every day. I know they don't look forward to it, but we try to make sure we stay on the same page. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty good as to where we were in the spring. And we know that we have room for improvement, and that improvement, again, happens through your communication to us. We continue with collaborative time for our teachers during the day to kind of share the good things, the spotlights that are happening, and improve on pockets across the district where additional help is needed. When this decision was made to go remotely as a district K-12 administratively, but the final decision coming from my seat in terms of weighing out the hidden curriculum, in terms of social emotional supports, health, and safety measures, and then combining that with developing the best of our ability, a continuous curriculum. That's kind of where it all fell out in terms of our remote learning. And we are getting better each week. We still have concerns of health issues, even though that we're not in school in terms of some of the spread, et cetera. But we will continue to move forward through this 9 weeks with remote learning. And our intent is to be on a hybrid learning model when we return back the second week of November. And that is where we stand as of today. So if there are no more questions, is that correct, Julianne, Mrs. Ware?
That is correct.
Okay. Again, our staff works diligently every day. Every time I walk through a building and they call me in, and 3 or 4 teachers working on a platform or trying to improve in terms of the delivery and the curriculum and maintaining best practices. I couldn't be prouder of the work that's been done and the leadership of those buildings. And so I guess that being said, until next time, we are Girard family, taking care of each other.